This is the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast session number 195. Work Smart Business, the Power of Premise.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
And an amazing adventure continues moving forward. This is Jason Linett. Thank you for joining me once again here on this program. And a huge thank you to those of you that have gone online and leaving reviews. Of course, is that a word? Of course, going online and sharing this program happens very frequently, whether it's the different Facebook groups, someone asks a question, and well, here's Jason's podcast session specifically about that. So having that value-added resource out there just to supplement this amazing community. But I'd tell you something that surprised me a couple of days ago. Up until about maybe 3 months ago, I think, I only had maybe 15, 16 reviews in the iTunes library around this podcast, which this is micro niche. This is a very small audience and a very small community, just because we're not a big community and not everybody has the business mindset attached to it. So to see that suddenly in the last couple of months, the reviews jumped from like 15 to 35, thank you. You guys rock. And if you haven't done that, you still rock, but you're going to rock even more when you go to the actual iTunes listing inside of the iTunes software and leave your review for this program. That's what helps us to spread this knowledge and really help this industry just flourish and grow. Which, on that note, that's everything that my next project, Work Smart Business, is all about. The book Work Smart Business actually comes out on January 27th, 2019. And a huge thank you to the 400 plus of you that are already inside the launch team for that project. It's your opportunity to get a backstage tour, in addition to a free digital copy of the book before the book even comes out, to get a backstage tour as to what it takes to break out of a small category, broadcast that message to a global audience, and yes, we're calling the shot, get it to a number one position on Amazon. So to be a part of that, head over to worksmartbusiness.com/launch, LAUNCH, worksmartbusiness.com/launch. That's where you can sign up for the launch team. I'm going to ask only a small amount of your time to help out along the way, to commit to reading the book in advance, leaving a review online, sharing it during the 3 days that it's going to be available for absolutely free on Amazon. But again, the backstage tour, I just did a video this morning inside of that community, where I actually kind of walked through the book design story. I walked through the techniques of media. Writing the book is just one part of it. I'll have done 15 podcast appearances that'll be releasing over the next 3 months or so, actually, as of the end of the day today. And I'm recording today. It's the 14th of December. The session releases on the 20th. So again, though, if you're listening before January 27th, that's where that launch page will be active. Afterwards, everything's just going to redirect over to the main worksmartbusiness.com page, all about the book. May just end up redirecting over to Amazon, which is just as easy. Though implementing one of the principles, one of the strategies in the book, for the small investment of a book, you can make back even more. So either way, check out Work Smart Business. And this session this week is a bit of a preview. Now, mind you, a disclaimer, this is post-content edits and pre-final proofreading edits. So I'm going to read it all in one take, and you might hear me actually make some adjustments along the way, because I've read it out loud several times. That's a great tip, by the way, for writing. Don't just sit there and stare at the screen. Read it out loud. Even better, listen to yourself as a part of that journey to make sure it flows in a natural dialogue. So this is going to be, I'm going to add something to this. I'm going to do the initial welcome to the book, which is just 2 pages of really setting the frame of why people should read a book about business written by a hypnotist. The catchphrase becomes is that if I could pull off everything I've done in a world where I have to convince some people that I'm not going to make you bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken, standard business people, they don't have these barriers. Business is business. You can make my strategies and principles work even better. So I'll read that opening welcome, and then from there, we're going to jump directly into the main meat of this session this week, which is the power of premise. Speaking of which, this is session number 195, Work Smart Business, the Power of Premise. Welcome. You and I are about to begin a fascinating journey. Our origin stories may be similar. Struck by a jolt of entrepreneurial energy, we were compelled to forge our own path and inspired to start our own business. We both have a burning desire to design our own lives. We've likely read the same books and studied the same marketing gurus. This quest we're about to take together is going to be different. From startup to scale up, I'm going to share my story and give you the easy-to-implement principles of how I've done it. My goal is for you to harness these strategies to create your own incredible outcomes. I was once the employee, living paycheck to paycheck. I spent years climbing the career ladder, waiting to be offered my perceived dream job, and I walked away as soon as the opportunity appeared. I gave up the steady income and guaranteed benefits. I launched a local business, which quickly filled with thousands of individual clients. I routinely raised my rates to balance supply and demand, yet still had to create a waiting list for new customers. I paid off student loans and credit card debt while buying a home for my growing family. I've stood on stages in front of thousands of people sharing an inspiring message. I've more than tripled my business from a single-figure income to a multiple six-figure income. I've harnessed the reins of modern technology to reach a global audience and sell hundreds of thousands of dollars of products online. My story reads like the entrepreneurial dream for someone just starting out. You, like me, probably read similar books and stories of people escaping the 9-to-5 lifestyle to go off and do big things. So why another business book? My story is different. It's different not just by how and why I've done it. It's different because of what I do. I'm a hypnotist. Through influential language patterns and positive motivational strategies, I've helped thousands of clients release bad habits and negative emotional states to take control of their own lives. Some people would tell you it takes 30 days to make a massive personal change. My clients would tell you otherwise. They've released the slavery bonds of nicotine and tobacco to rapidly quit smoking. They've closed their eyes on a fear to then reopen into a world of strength. They've learned the methods to communicate with their unconscious minds to motivate their own success. The process isn't magic, yet it can be magical. It's a set of skills that anyone with passion and dedication can learn. These methods are widely used in hospitals, by professional athletes, and by top business people around the world. I've used the principles of rapport and modeling to track what successful business people do differently, so I could generate my own success. I ravenously studied it so I could share the methods with others. I've taken this hypnotic way of thinking into the corporate world. The same principles that can help someone instantly let go of a limiting belief are the same methods to consistently scale up a business. Why work smart? It's just 2 words and just 2 syllables that form an incredible command statement. It's short and to the point. It's intentional. We'll forgive the fact that it's grammatically incorrect. Apple told their companies, their communities, to think different, when any decent proofreader would tell you it should be think differently. They changed the world. I want you to work smart to change your business and your life now. Will this book hypnotize you to become more successful? The better question is, what misconceptions, fears, or doubts are you ready to let go of? What ineffective strategies are you ready to stop doing? My goal isn't just to hypnotize you to become a success. My goal is for you to become even more empowered as you dehypnotize the stuff that's been holding you back. We're going to work with intention. We're going to put motivation and meaning behind what you do. You're going to make it your own. You're going to work smart. This book is going to give you a roadmap to success. This adventure is just beginning. Hypnotically, Jason Linett. So that's the opening segment. Once again, head over to worksmartbusiness.com/launch. That's going to get you the digital copy of the book before it launches. That's going to give you the backstage pass of everything, the instructions to join the Facebook community, and help us all get this thing to number 1. Here I am now This is the first official chapter. The book is separated into two segments of the principles and strategies. This is the first principle. As I drink my coffee here. There we go. The power of premise. The worst business advice I ever received made me an instant success. We're about to explore how quickly you can shift your thinking to observe the world differently than others. When I talk about mindset, it's not just about positive thinking and affirmations. Mindset is your internal game of challenging the myths and misconceptions that stifle success. It's about that smack of reality you can give yourself to rapidly discover new opportunities in your business or even personal life. If you operate as if obstacles are a possibility rather than inevitability, your opportunities for success are greatly enhanced. You are about to discover the power of premise, a principle in which you choose to shift your mindset in order to fuel your passion. We'll talk about what assets are the most valuable to you in the startup or scale-up phases of your business. You'll learn how to craft a creative narrative that draws in your ideal audience. Prepare yourself to let every reason why the odds may seem stacked up against you to become every reason why you are going to make this happen. It wasn't my original goal to become, quote, the business guy. Instead, a curious series of events decided the specialty for me. My professional career began in management for performance arts. As a theatrical stage manager, my job was the least creative part of professional theater. It was my responsibility to schedule rehearsals, deal with unions, orchestrate the running of live shows, and help all the highly creative people involved get along. Think of this as a higher form of psychological training. I worked through internships, put in long hours, and, quote, paid my dues by sitting in dark theaters fine-tuning the precise operation of productions. I rose through the ranks of stagehand to intern to assistant stage manager and eventually joining the union as a stage manager for theatrical stage professionals. My dream job was getting closer and closer, and as soon as it was offered, I walked away from it all. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do it the rest of your life. I don't regret for a minute the experiences I had in this former career. I learned the value of building professional relationships, collaboration with a team of unique individuals, and the importance of precision, as sometimes I would have to call a lighting cue on stage simply off the sight of an actor raising his eyebrow. Over the course of 8 shows a week throughout several months of performances, the precision was always there, that the eyebrow raise would always happen and the lighting change would always occur on time. The moment appeared spontaneous on stage, yet ran like a well-oiled machine. You're going to learn how to design systems for your business in a later chapter of this book. The hobby of hypnosis had been growing in the background, so we now rejoin a young Jason Linett standing in an empty office at the start of a new business. I did not want to reinvent the wheel, so I scheduled time to attend a local networking event specific to my business. I will go out to discover what others are doing so I can model their success. My expectations were positive. I was excited to meet several others in my industry who would share words of wisdom and encouragement. Unfortunately, this was not my experience. Though the locals were friendly and welcoming, the message they shared was full of doom and gloom. It's going to be slow your first year. You won't receive any referrals as a new business owner. You should have started a part-time business. There's too much risk in going full-time. I expected to find a room full of people talking about themes of abundance and perhaps even the law of attraction. This was far from it. Fast forward to the next month. Given the negative reaction from my first meeting, something happened that told me I had to go back. I had a surprise to share. Business was booming. I had a fully booked schedule of paying clients. The negative tones of "this will be difficult for you" shifted to, "How are you doing that?" I was back at this event a few months later teaching the group how I had built my business. Where you focus your attention and what message you listen to is a choice. There's a lot of negative dialogue out there. The antidote to this negativity is something I call, quote, the power of premise. Imagine what will happen when you flip your thinking in a new direction. Rather than immediately accept negative expectations, train yourself to adopt a flexible mindset. What if every reason you couldn't do something became every reason you could? Like the catchphrase, live by the catchphrase, I refuse to buy into that premise. It's like that moment of orchestrated frustration in a television infomercial. There's got to be a better way. The story of scarcity thinking I heard at the networking event did not fit with my business projections. I refused to buy into that premise. Rather than absorb the negativity, I took serious action. If my schedule was open and I wasn't working with a private client, I physically removed myself from my office. I introduced my business at dozens of networking events. I gave as many live talks and presentations in the local community as my schedule would permit. My mission was to represent my work with passion and professionalism. The result? Filling my schedule was easy. Which do you have more of? Time or money? I meet many people who hold themselves back. They believe they don't have enough money to launch their business. They believe it isn't the right time. Remember, quote, someday is the worst day to start a diet. Some people get locked in a position of it won't work because they genuinely take action. And sadly, they don't take action, and sadly, their dreams fizzle out. Edit. Remember, there's got to be a better way. Shift your thinking to understand that time is just as valuable as money. In my startup years, I employed my time as a primary asset. Rather than spend a lot of money, I focused on no-cost to low-cost methods. I preserved my savings and watched my bank account grow. Go against the grain with the power of premise. I don't want you to think the attendees at this networking meeting were horrible people. The messages and well-meaning advice came from genuine care and concern. I gained an appreciation for them that their ideas did not come from scarcity or competition. I used it as a catalyst to put in the work necessary to get positive results. As time was my tool of choice, I had ventured into several other networking professional organizations. Do you think I was surprised to find the quote, it's going to be slow your first year premise was a virus infiltrating many of these communities too? I challenged the model. I chose to work smart, and I received very different results. Sally Hogshead, author of the book Fascinate, revised and updated, How to Make Your Brand Impossible to Resist, speaks about the idea that, quote, different is better than better. You can be the best at something. Yet, if nobody knows of you, what good are those skills? There's a history of tech products that were phenomenal, yet they did not gain commercial success because another product stood out as different, which made it better. In the world of personal music, the Microsoft Zune had features which could have made it far superior to Apple's iPod. In addition to your personal MP3 files, you could share your music and listen to the radio on the Zune. However, the iPod stood out in the market as something new and unique. Why were Apple's headphone cables white? Because everyone else's were black. Being different is just one of the ingredients of standing out to your potential audience. You need to be able to walk the walk rather than just talk the talk. Your skills need to be effective. Your product needs to actually work. Telling a good story isn't enough to maintain a business. Remember the principle of 10,000 hours Malcolm Gladwell speaks of in his book, Outliers, calculating the time necessary to truly become an expert at something. I'm going to share with you my method to stand out as an authority that you are in your own community. An elevator speech is a classic strategy in which you craft your marketing message in such a way that in a short elevator ride, someone else can understand your business. The classic premise of an elevator speech is to state your name, your occupation, your location, and perhaps a good referral for you. My name is John. I'm an accountant in Washington, D.C., and I'm looking to meet real estate agents. Shift this premise with a strategy I call the Hollywood effect. Many movies begin in the middle of the story. The story kicks off with an action sequence. The film now rewinds back to the beginning of the story, and you watch the story unfold up to the climactic moment. Model this storytelling strategy to sweep people into an experience, grab their attention, and become more memorable. Make them care about your message and cause your audience to really listen to you. Use descriptive language to draw in the audience. Kick off with a brief story to establish credibility and value. Show is always better than tell. It might even serve you to be a little provocative. Good morning, everybody. Today's story ends with murder, so listen carefully. A successful lawyer comes into my office with a major challenge. She's had a lifelong fear of bugs. Her firm assigned her the case of a lifetime. She backed out of it when she saw a cockroach in the courtroom. She's a new mother. She checked into a hotel after her son was born because she saw a centipede crawling through her living room. After our first meeting, she killed a housefly with her bare hand. Who do you know that is ready to release a fear? My name is Jason Lynette. I'm a hypnotist, and I'm an expert at helping people release fears. Create an emotional response to position yourself as an expert in a memorable way. Use the power of premise to go against the norm. Stand out as different, and present your expertise in a way that demonstrates your expertise. This principle goes beyond business networking. What if you could shift the premise of an entire industry? A friend once complained that in his specific tech industry, quote, you only have 3 companies to work with. Something magical happened in a single pause. His frustration turned into a smile. And then laughter as he exclaimed, well, I guess there can now be a 4th. The world is full of stories of people launching new products and services. You've likely already read several business books which have begun to repeat the same stories of tech pioneers who changed the world. A massive change in the world can often be traced to a singular experience. When you shift your thinking, you shift the world around you. Shift happens. There's a muscle in the mind. This is a muscle in the mind you can now begin to grow. And it doesn't matter if you're flexing it now for the first time. I grew up with it. I was raised in a family of entrepreneurs. My parents left their full-time, safe jobs to then do something unique and out of the ordinary. My mother quit a job as a secretary for a peanut company, and my father left a job driving a truck delivering plastics to launch a successful wedding photography business. Create your own opportunities, rather than hope they will happen. The actor, comedian, and podcaster Kevin Pollak would say, if you're not creating, you're waiting. His career achieved an incredible renaissance as he broke away from the mold of character actor and impersonator to become an online media pioneer. Harnessing the backstory of having already appeared in hundreds of television shows and movies, he took control of his career to create the next phase of his life. He launched the Kevin Pollak Chat Show, a podcast and live streaming video interview program which has now been downloaded millions of times around the world. The result? His career flourished as new acting roles appeared. He published a book and stepped into the role as a director. It's time for you to stop waiting and instead start creating. What if the power of premise could change your emotional state? Believe it or not, a dash of creative thinking could help you to dissolve fear, stress, and even anxiety. I grew up a safe and cautious driver. I discovered that if I illegally drove over the speed limit to pass another car, we would end up sitting next to each other waiting at the same stoplight. Why take the risk of getting a speeding ticket? It was just easier to follow the rules. However, I learned the hard way that a local highway is entirely a high-occupancy restricted road during the afternoon rush hour. Most highways only restrict 1 or 2 lanes, right? Nope. The entire Interstate 66 in Virginia is reserved only for those with 2 or more people in the car. Imagine my surprise as I'm cruising down Interstate 66 by myself and the sound of a siren interrupts my experience, and the police lights are flashing behind me. At least the officer smiled as he wrote up my traffic offense ticket with a note that read, "Driver was in the right lane going the speed limit." The power of premise helped me to view the experience from a very different perspective. First of all, I learned not to drive on that highway by myself, and I moved through the experience without stress. Yes, I could have just paid off the ticket, but I'd never been to traffic court. Sounds like fun, right? I've got the morning off. Let's go and see what happens. In the worst case scenario, I'd have to pay the offense. To be fair, I was guilty. Pending I had the common sense to not say something offensive to the judge, I knew I wasn't going to be thrown in jail for driving solo in an HOV lane. I refused to buy into the premise that I needed to be nervous. Yes, many people were in court that day for much greater offenses. I felt a sense of safety, at least for myself, as the judge explained that they reorganized the docket to start with the easy cases and finish with the more challenging ones. Quote, if you've never been here before, stick around for the DUI cases. That's when it gets interesting. The judge announced the day would start with first-time HOV offenders. Before I could step up and testify, he asked, did you learn your lesson? I responded yes. The entire experience was over in seconds as he banged the gavel and informed me, hit the clerk's office on the way out, pay the court fees, you're good to go, don't come back again. I asked, don't you want to hear my story? The judge smiled and asked me if I really wanted to try my odds. I paid the fees and haven't been back to court since. Think about it. A potentially nerve-wracking situation was diffused by a dash of logic and a heaping serving of the power of premise. I did not buy into the idea that I needed to be nervous. It's like the time I was almost mugged in France. Almost. The truth is I didn't know we were getting mugged. I didn't speak French, and I didn't notice that the man asking for money was holding a knife. I assumed he was a homeless panhandler and politely said, no thank you, and kept walking. As we moved out of the dark alley, my wife explained, he had a knife. Ignorance is bliss when you're too naive to realize someone is sticking you up for money with a knife. As I speak to organizations about strategies for better innovation and achieving their goals, I've discovered corporations and associations are also in need of the power of premise. I'm invited to give a keynote presentation to help reinforce the future growth of their industry. In spite of this positive future goal, businesses are often retreating by toning down their spending or reducing their efforts. They're waving the white flag rather than embracing a challenge. The more successful the company I speak to, the more likely they're doubling down their efforts to inspire the right message to their team. The power of premise can flip the negative news cycle of a down economy into limitless potential for growth. How can I make this work even better? Break out of the analysis paralysis myth that perhaps the timing isn't right, and instead work smart to make it the right time. Remember those old movies with Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney? Please note that my cultural references will gradually become more outdated and oddly specific. For some reason, they kept finding the need to put on a performance. These movies became formulaic. The solution to all their problems was to say, my uncle has a barn. Let's put on a show. It's like standing in an empty office, in debt, deciding this is the perfect positioning to launch a business. It's like being an entrepreneur with a wife, 2 children, a dog, and a cat. I'm going to make this work. Sounds like a powerful premise to live by, doesn't it? A married couple often debates for years if it's the right time for them to have kids. If they truly have the desire to grow their family, do they wait for the right time or do they make it the right time? The power of premise can change your health. You've likely heard of people using hypnosis for weight loss. It's not necessarily the power of suggestion that can talk to a person's fat cells and directly tell them to die off. Hypnosis can create the mental shift to motivate the strategies necessary for weight loss. A 1996 study published in the Journal of Consulting and Clinical Psychology demonstrated that hypnosis more than doubled the average weight loss of people in an experiment. The people following a diet and using hypnosis as a motivational tool found far greater results than those simply following the diet alone. I share this research with you as the foundation to tell you the story of 2 different men in their early 60s who called seeking my help to motivate their weight loss. It was synchronicity and coincidence that they had the same backstory and happened to schedule on the same day. The 10 a.m. man walked in and explained, now that I'm retired, it's going to be easy to lose weight. I'm going to have time to go to the gym. I'm going to be able to cook and prepare food for myself. This is going to be easy. Then came the other man at 12 p.m. Now that I'm retired, it's going to be impossible to lose weight. We're going to all sorts of social events. We're going on vacations, and I'm just going to want to sit around the house. This is going to be impossible. The first man easily achieved his goal. The second man was seeing results and struggled until I told him the story of the first guy. The power of premise was the missing ingredient that made the change possible. Sometimes there are real conflicts to address. You should factor in the current state of your finances to avoid blindly spending money you don't have. Please avoid sacrificing your personal health and connections to loved ones just to go after a goal. Stay tuned later in this book for Create Balance, a chapter devoted to having a life outside of your business. The power of premise can help you harness genuine conflicts and convert them into advantages or motivational tools. I once found myself working with an executive who explained that a specific medical condition was every reason why he wasn't successful with one part of his business. His belief systems changed the more we talked about it. As he now put it, because I've got this disability, it's every reason I owe it to myself and my community to become massively successful. The premise of his life shifted out of the stuck issue of being a victim and instead into the role of a survivor, an advocate. Put the power of premise to use right away. The formula is simple. Take every reason you could believe you can't and let it become every reason you could. The word because could be the most dangerous word you use. It could also be the most inspiring. Let your current situations become the because you're going to work smart in your business. Move beyond I could and inspire the mindset I will. Once again, there's got to be a better way. And every chapter wraps up with Work Smart action steps. Let's bring it on home. Once again, head over to WorkSmart Business. That's a habit I got to break. WorkSmartBusiness.com/launch. That's how you can join the launch team, get a free digital copy of the book in advance, and see the behind the scenes tour of how we're going to really launch this thing. Here are the Work Smart action steps for Power of Premise. You can have reasons or you can have results. Compile a list of the reasons you may have been persuading yourself as to why you can't achieve a certain outcome. Let the creative part of your mind have fun considering all the alternatives in which these potential conflicts can become your best motivator. Let yourself truly discover that the logic works in both directions and let the better mindset take hold. Use the power of premise to rewrite your personal origin story. Like a superhero, take the elements that demonstrate your readiness to move forward in this new business adventure. This is the story you now tell yourself to stay motivated and continue to grow. Maintain the truth and integrity of what happened. Isn't that topical right now, folks? That's not in the book, but I just had to comment it. Go back and find that session I just completely deleted. Back to positivity. This is a story you now tell yourself to stay motivated and continue to grow. Maintain the truth and integrity of what happened, though realize you can shine a metaphorical spotlight to position yourself as the hero in the next part of your story. Mark Twain once said, "I'm an old man and have known many a great troubles, but most of them never happened." Consider upcoming events or possibilities that are causing you stress, and exercise your power of premise to shift your own emotional state. Hey, Jason Linett here once again, and as always, thank you so much for leaving a review, sharing this program online, and once again, head directly to WorkSmartBusiness.com/launch. That's how you're going to get a free digital copy of the book before it actually releases. Be a part of the story of bringing this to a #1 position on Amazon, which as much as, yes, clearly, let's call it out, this is to help me to scale up my efforts. This is a bit of a gift to the hypnotic profession. Many times I've heard people ask about how I've worked with business people over the years. Yes, there's people, friends and mentors I'd consider folks like Anthony Gailey who are introducing it as well. But this book is also a bit of a play to help you in your business too, so that if you want to work with business clients, you can give them a copy of my book. You can direct them to my book as a reference point to go, yes, this is how it works. This is what we do. This is someone I've learned from. This is one of my peers, however you want to phrase it. This is who I think is the most handsome person in the world. Give me one and share that out there. So again, be a part of this story. WorkSmartBusiness.com/launch. See you on the inside.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at WorkSmartHypnosis.com.
Hey, it's Jason here, and I want you to be the first to find out as we upload new content here online. So do this right now. Click subscribe right next to this video, and you will be the first to find out as I share further resources, further downloads, and other really cool things to come your way. See you soon.